Hi, it's Ruben. I'm back again with another SUPboarder review of an inflatable paddleboard to get you on the water this summer at a competitive price point. So this is from a brand new brand that we haven't seen any of the boards from before. They started back in 2014. This is Sandbanks SUP Style. So Sandbanks SUP Style are based in South Dorset and they are a relatively small SUP company, but having a look on their website, they do actually sell a fair range of paddleboards. This is their ultimate SR board. It's a new board to their range. It's 10'5" long, it's 32 inches wide, it's 6 inches thick. The volume comes in at 258 litres in volume. It's got a lot of volume there. It can float a large paddler. They recommend up to 130 kilograms, and it weighed 9 kilograms when we weighed it, and it retails as a package at £499 with an aluminium paddle, or you can upgrade for a carbon paddle at £599. And it's finished off with a US center box and 2 mini PVC fins. So this board is going to be aimed at getting a lot of different weights of riders on the water for the first time. So we're talking real beginner SUP here. Being 10'5" long, 32 wide is the perfect size to get you on the water. The materials of the board, it's got an internal core of drop stitch, and like many other top brands, it's got fused layers of PVC wrapping around the board in 2 layers, making it super airtight and very durable. So before we move on to who do you think the board's best suited for and what it's like on the water, let's have a look at some of the fittings you get with the package. So on the board, you're starting off at the nose, you've got your bungees, pretty standard on most iSUPs now, but great again to have, putting your flip-flops and your drink and a small dry bag under them, keeping them safe when you're going long journeys. One thing I really like on this board, and it's very comfortable, is the deck pad. Very big, solid EVA diamond grip deck pad, goes right to the tail of the board. It's so nice to have a large area to stand on, and definitely when you're getting into maneuvers and walking around the board, it's really comfy under feet and it gives you a lot more grip. And finishing off the deck pad at the back here, a really big kicker tail kick pad at the back there, which is a raised EVA pad. You've heard me say it before, great for having your foot at the back of the board for doing step back turns and more maneuver-based maneuvers, and maybe even catching a few waves as well, because you're going to be near the back of the board for all of those sort of things. So really like the deck pad and really like the really big raised kicker. Centre of the board, you've got your carry handle, neoprene wrapped, very comfy carry handle, especially for the price point of this board. Very happy to carry that a long distance. Looking to the back of the board, you've got your leashing plug and you've got your inflation valve. The PSI this board pressure recommends is 15 to 18 PSI with a maximum pressure of 20 PSI. So if some of you watched our SUPboard Pro video the other day where we were talking about cheaper price point iSUPs and things to look out for, that was one of the signs. Looking out for a good PSI range of the cheaper price points boards, and still recommended up to a high pressure like this one at 20 PSI. So moving on to our deflection test, which is where we put this board on a bend test. We put it on a gap of 1.5 meters apart, and we put a weight of 75 kilograms in the center, pushing down, and then we measure how much the board dropped. The board dropped 15 millimeters, so it does come out as a fairly stiff board for the construction and thickness. Remember, top end boards, maybe up to the sort of £800–900 price point, would be dropping about 12 millimeters. So it's not far behind those big top end players. And that was all done with a PSI pressure of 16 PSI, which is in the middle of the 15 to 18 PSI range. So looking at the bottom of the board here, you can see your nose bending away at the bottom of your screen there. That's going to obviously help chop or bumpy water go underneath the bottom of the board and travel back towards the tail. When you get to the midsection here, it's nice and flat all the way to the tail. Remember, a flatter midsection and tail to the board means it's going to be easier to paddle in a straight line, and it's going to offer a bit more glide than a more curved board would do. Moving to the back of the board, you've got your 2 mini side indestructible side fins, and you've got your nice big US box center box there. Now remember, a good thing about the US box is you usually get a nice big good quality fin with it, and you do with this package as well. You get an FCS2 Connect system, which is a very easy system to use. Clicks in, clicks back, and you can go paddling. The great thing about this fin is it's nice and big, nice and upright, and it's a nice shape, so it's very easy to paddle in a straight line, which is when you start off paddleboarding, pretty much the one thing you want. Good forward tracking, nice and easy. So that's a really nice fin that comes with the package. But also the good thing about having the 2 mini side fins and a US box is if you want to have maybe the kids muck about with the board and you don't want them to run up the beach with your nice fin, you can just let them play around with it with the mini side fins. Yes, they're not going to go in a very straight line, but if they're just jumping off the board in the shallows, that's pretty much sometimes all you need. So let's have a little look at what comes with the package. So looking at the bag, you get a very large, heavy duty, non-branded bag that easily fits the board in. Really heavy duty ripstop nylon. Big zip, easy to get the board in, goes right around. It's got loads of attachments so you can shrink the board down. It's got your carrying position at the bottom of the bag. It's got wheels. It's got a basic but heavy duty backpack. What I mean by that is it's sort of well made but not super well padded. It's got everything that a more expensive board or a top end bag would have, but it's sort of the stripped back version. So it's completely adequate for putting your board in and wheeling it down the beach or even carrying it moderate distances. Obviously you get a repair kit as standard, which you do with all iSUPs these days. You also get a phone case, which is great for keeping you safe on the water and tracking yourself with apps like GeoSUP. Look, moving on to the pump. This is another prime example of what I said in that SUPboarder Pro video the other day about talking about when you're buying a cheaper price point. I was talking about main brands, how you're making sure you buy into a brand that you know or have heard of before. Bravo makes SUP pumps for lots and lots of iSUPs, and they're probably the top iSUP inflatable pump manufacturer in the world. So it comes with a Bravo two-way pump, sort of reduced cylinder, so it pumps on the upstroke and on the downstroke, and then when the pressure gets hard and you can't pull the pump up anymore, you can take this little reg tag out and then you can just pump on the downstroke to make it nice and easy. Great pump, great size, and also this pump comes with a built-in pressure gauge as well. So as this is advertised as a package, you do get a paddle with the board. So £499, you get yourself a 3-piece aluminium paddle, which to be honest, I really quite like. Oval shaft, so it's fairly stiff. Some aluminium paddles are actually quite flexy. This one is fairly stiff, and the blade shape as well is actually really nice for a plastic blade. Good thing about plastic blade, really hard wearing. It's going to be great for all family members to muck about with it. So this aluminium paddle, I really personally like. It's very nice, relatively light, pretty stiff, and definitely worth the money in the package. So moving up from the aluminium paddle at £499 with a package, you can move on to a carbon paddle, which retails at $599 for a package. So basically the big difference between the aluminium and carbon is the weight saving. The carbons are going to be stiffer again, going to give you a little bit more performance, but bear in mind there's a big difference between a upgrade carbon paddle you give with a package like this to a £350 carbon race paddle from Starboard. So that sort of paddles are going to be really pushing towards performance. These ones are really making your paddling experience as easy as possible and as comfortable as possible. So if you think you're going to get into paddleboarding and you're really committed to the sport and you want to keep on doing it, generally an upgrade to a carbon paddle when you first start is a good option because of the weight saving and because it's a little bit stiffer and gives you a little bit more performance than the aluminium paddle would do. And the package also comes with a coiled SUP leash. So what's the Sandbanks Style Ultimate 10.5 light on the water? Well, it's 10.5 long, 32 wide. Great size for beginners to get on the water from a wide range of paddlers. They recommend up to about 130 kilos, which it would take that amount of volume, but I think if you're 130 kilos, you might want to get yourself a bit of a wider base board. So definitely we think probably size wise 60 to 115 kilos would be a dream really happy weight on this side board. Because of the big center back fin, you're going to find paddling it in a straight line really easy, so it's going to have good forward tracking, and also because it's quite flat on the bottom, a nice amount of glide too. You're going to be able to put a lot of weight on this board, maybe a dog, a kid, big dry bag on the front, and do a little bit of exploring down the coast. We're talking light day hopping, nothing big and no big journeys, just light fun on the day. It's got a nice large amount of width at the tail there, so it makes getting into step back turns and more advanced maneuvers and just having fun on a board quite easy and very easy for you to get into and learn, which is a great thing. Pros and cons and value for money. Well, pros is it is a very good shape to get a lot of people into the sport, and I really like the full deck pad and the big kicker at the back there, making your maneuvers and getting into SUP as easy as possible. Cons, it's a little bit stripped back in graphics. I personally don't mind it, hasn't got any graphics underneath. It's not as flashy looking as some other boards, so some people might not like that styling. Value for money, well, it is a very competitive, good value price point of a SUP. It sits really comfortably at where it should do on the market. There are more expensive, well-known brands out there for £300 more, and there are some slightly cheaper SUP brands out there as well. So it sits perfectly at the price point in the market that this board should suit. Hope you found that SUPboarder review interesting and informative. Remember, if you want to find out more about this board, you should be checking it out on SUPboarder, not just on YouTube, because we've got loads more information, badges, sliders, ratings, and information from the brand. But until next time, we'll see you on YouTube or on SUPboarder. Thanks a lot.